one of the things that I like to design that kind of fits in with my love of skiing is ski areas. I like to imagine what ski areas could be on mountains where no ski area exists, or sometimes I'll even take an existing ski area and imagine how that area could be expanded. And so I'm going to be, in this video, sharing with you this funny hobby I have. I use Google Earth to draw ski areas that I imagine, and I'll go through that process with you. And I'm going to do this in, I think, 5 parts. The first part is I'll talk about some of the factors I consider when choosing a mountain to develop or an existing ski area to expand. Next, I'll draw out the chairlifts that would create the ski area or the expansion. Then I'll draw out the ski runs based on difficulty. And after that, I will draw out the courses where I essentially use polygons in Google Earth to cover up some trees so it looks like there are actual ski runs there. And then at the end, in the 5th part, I'll, I guess, give a summary and think about how maybe my design could be expanded further. All right, so let's start by talking about the factors I consider when building a ski area. I'm going to share a video with you to talk about this. So I live in Singapore, and my wife and I, she lives in Singapore too, we go to Japan for skiing most of the time. This is a video from a few years ago of me skiing in some fantastic powder in Hokkaido. Just a short clip. So based on my personal experiences, I think Hokkaido is an amazing place to ski, and it's somewhere I would like to, envision or imagine a ski resort being built. So let's look over at Google Earth, and I'm gonna show you that place where that video was shot. That was at Furano. If you want to go skiing at Furano, probably the best way to go is to fly into Sapporo. Here's Sapporo. The airport's down here. Then you can take a bus through the mountains and up this valley. And so here's the town of Furano. And here's the ski area. By Japan standards, this is a large ski area, and that video is shot up here at the top of Furano. So a nice little city and then a resort village. Okay, cool. You go further up this valley, a lot of farmland, you get to Asahikawa. Asahikawa is the 2nd largest city in Hokkaido after Sapporo. And just a little bit to the southwest of Asahikawa is this little ski area called Kamui Ski Links. My wife and I skied here 3 days, I think it was, a few years ago. We had a fantastic time skiing there. And if you're from the United States or Europe, you're probably looking at this thinking it's a small resort. By Japan standards, this is a medium-sized resort, but it could certainly be expanded. Let me share some other websites, some other information that I use to help me think about how to expand the ski areas. Well, when I ski in Japan, I spend a lot of time looking at snowjapan.com. There are, at the bigger resorts or the more popular resorts, daily snow reports by people who live there. For Kamui, it's just some basic resort data, so not the daily reports. Some basic statistics about 601 vertical meters. If you use imperial units, I think that's around 1,900 vertical feet. Steepest run is 35. I think that should be degrees. 25 courses, 3.5 kilometer run. And then here's the breakdown of the difficulty of the courses. Yeah, there aren't that many advanced courses there. It's typical of Japan resorts. It's not very steep, but it is very deep. And just really quickly under the snowfall, we can see historic snowfall amounts. So this just shows by season the snow depth over the course, and then here's a table version of the same information. And what I like to look at is when ski resorts start. So usually Kamui Ski Link starts by the 15th of December. Not usually, pretty much always. And it continues pretty consistently, until the end of March. So you get half of December, then January, February, March. This isn't that essential to my considerations in this video. What I really want to look at, let me go back a page. Okay, there's this website called snowforecast.com. And I use this to see what the snow forecast is going to be in the coming week. Now, of course, it's the autumn in Japan, and so it's kind of cool and rainy. But during the ski season, it's going to be cold and snowy, and you can see how much it's going to be snowing on this line in the coming few days. And that helps plan for which days to ski, which days to take breaks, if you're into taking breaks. But what I really like is this snow history, and this gives me a lot of information about, for example, December, January, February. It's snowing over 30 centimeters every week, and it's snowing pretty much 6 days a week. So 6 days a week, you're getting fresh snow. That's quite impressive. I really like this chart. So it shows for the middle of the mountain. Let me scroll back up. So you can see here the top of the mountain is 750, bottom's 150 meters, and then the middle's in the middle. So for the middle of the mountain, 450 meters above sea level, you'll see, for example, the second week of January has on average 5 powder days, almost 1 bluebird powder day, and then other days, right? And so consistently a lot of powder days. That's all these white portions of these bars. And there's some other charts, and I really like this one at the bottom, mainly because I can change the visualization. And this shows the freezing line, or the freezing level, which is this gray dashed line, compared to the top of the ski area, this black dashed line, middle, and bottom of the ski area. And so, for example, at the end of May, which is all the way over here on the right side, the freezing level is around 2,700 meters. That's around 9,000 feet. So anything above that is going to be snowing when there's precipitation. Anything below that will be raining. And so what's important then in this chart is to look at where this gray dashed line crosses these other black dashed lines. So at the top of the ski area, for example, it starts snowing somewhere in the 3rd week of November. And it continues snowing all the way until, the end of the 1st week in April. At the bottom of the mountain, it starts snowing in the 2nd week of December, and it stops snowing at the end of the 2nd week in March. And so if you compare when the snow starts at the top versus bottom, there's about an extra 3 weeks of snowfall at the top, at the start of the season, and also at the end of the season. So if you add that up, it's 6. So 6 weeks extra winter at the top of the ski area versus the bottom. So this just shows how maybe building more runs or more of the ski area at the top of the mountain can help extend the season. There's one other website I want to show really quickly that will be helpful in the design. So this is fatmap.com. I've already zoomed in on Kamui ski links. So FatMap is a tool used for planning routes. If you're a hiker, if you're a cyclist, if you're a skier, if you need to go up into the mountains somewhere and plan the route, this is a useful tool. One of the things I really like when it comes to planning for skiing is down here in the bottom right-hand corner under Layers. I'll click on Overlays, and then I have all this great information. For example, I can look at avalanche risk. And Kamui ski links isn't that steep, so pretty low avalanche risk everywhere. A really important overlay is the aspect. So this shows which direction the different slopes are facing. So for example, most of the ski area is along this face. And so this would be dark blue and black. So it's west and northwest. Those are decent aspects. What you don't want is too much of these red aspects, which are south facing. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, south facing slopes get more sun. Yeah, it's nice to have some sun on you, it's warm, but it melts the snow. So shorter seasons if you're on these red faces. And then all the way on the other side are all these blue faces. So these are north facing. These are ideal for retaining snow longer in the season. So you would expect to see more snow on these slopes later in the season than on these red slopes. So what we can see already is maybe there would be a good idea to expand some of the skiing back into this area. One other overlay I want to show is the gradient. And so this just shows how steep the ski area is. So for example, these yellow areas are getting into, maybe about 30 degrees, getting a little bit orange, so getting up to about 35 degrees. That's about as steep as it gets in the current resort. Most of it is probably around 15 to 20 degrees on the upper mountain. But then also looking at the backside, I mentioned this is good because of the northern aspect. Some of the steepest skiing on this mountain is on the backside. This area in particular looks like it's, getting up to around 40 degrees. Now 40 degrees is an expert run. That's quite steep. So there's some information going into what I want to design. Let's go back to Google Earth, and I'm going to start designing. So in this first step, I will create the chairlifts. And before I do that, I'm going to add a new folder, Kamui Ski Links, and add another folder in that folder, lifts. Okay. And for the lifts, I just use lines, and I make my lifts yellow in color, and the width is 2.5 units. So I'll just start drawing these lifts. I'll start with the gondola. So these are the existing lifts. Now, what I want to do is think about how this lift infrastructure, the existing infrastructure, can be linked with some new lifts. And for this video, I'm gonna put in the two that I think would represent a reasonable, possibly realistic, near-term expansion if the resort were looking at expanding. So first, I want to build something that goes up to the very top of the mountain. If we go horizontal here, you'll see where the gondola finishes is not as high as, well, it's not at the top of the mountain. Now, if you remember from FatMap, this slope doesn't have the best aspect. It's a bit west by southwest, so not an ideal aspect, but it is quite high on the mountain, and so I think the elevation makes up for the poor aspect. So I'm going to start then by thinking about placing a lift. I'll start at the top. So let's get up to 785 meters, and then down to over here somewhere. I'm going to think about where would be a good place for the bottom of this lift. Now I'm going to assume that the topography or the terrain information is accurate. So it looks like it gets a little bit flat right about here. If you can see that. Right here it's kind of flat, and I think flat areas are good for lift stations. All right. I think that's pretty good. So at the bottom, we're looking at 620 meters, and at the top, it's almost 790. So about 170, did I do that math right? About 170 vertical meters. That's roughly 600 vertical feet. Not a tremendous amount, but I think this is good for what will mostly be beginner and easy intermediate runs. So that's the first lift, and later I'll be integrating it with these runs and the other lifts. The second lift, I really want to go on the backside here. And so again, I'm going to start at the top, and I guess I'll put it about there, 788 meters, and go down to the bottom here. Okay, so that's where the lifts are going to be, and yeah, I've placed the lift. So that's it for the lift stage. Now I want to talk about what this clearing is really briefly. This is, I'm pretty sure, for logging. Let's look at some historic data. So this is something cool in Google Earth. One of these shows a bunch of logging trails. Here we go. So these are all logging trails, I'm pretty sure. If we zoom in, those look like piles of logs. So I assume all of these roads are for logging. So for this to work, I think the loggers would have to move to slightly different valleys, and the logging roads would have to be removed. But that's what's going on here. Anyway, while we're on this historic imagery, I'm going to skip forward to, oh, here's a good one. So this is May 2017, and you can see on the front side where the ski area is, it's pretty much devoid of snow by this point. The top still has a bit of snow. So this lift is actually looking okay. This is probably mid-May when this satellite image was taken. And then on the back side, there's a little bit of snow all the way to the bottom of the lift. So I think these are good lift placements. But let's keep going forward all the way until April 2019. And I'm going to go, there are a bunch of these. I'm going to go to this one. So now we're in the winter. And now I can start drawing the runs. Add a runs folder. And what I do here is I'm going to draw out the existing runs. Then it's going to be, let's look over here. It's going to be based on what Kamui Ski Links currently uses for their runs. Green is, of course, the beginner runs. Red is intermediate. And black is most difficult. So this is what I'll be using. I'm going to put this over on my other screen. And I'm going to, so I'm using that as a reference on one screen, and then I'm going to draw all these courses. And this is a bit tedious of a process, so I'm going to use time-lapse, or whatever that's called, some time compression to zip through this. So I'll draw this out really quickly, and then we'll move on to drawing the new runs in the expansion. All right, I think that looks good enough here. I'll just plop this over here for a little comparison. I think I got most things. What did I miss? Oh, you know what? I gotta add, I'm gonna add this one red thing and then I'll be done. All right, let's see, it's down here. All right, I need to add one more red thing, just because I can. Get on there. All right, now what I'm gonna do, I need to save this. Save. So I've saved the KMZ file, because sometimes Google Earth freezes on me. All right, I'm going to actually create a subfolder under runs called existing and plop all of these in there. Now I'm going to do some imagining of where the courses will go on the expansion. So I'll create another folder called expansion. And I'm going to start drawing. Let's see. Probably start with, I'll tell you what, I'm going to draw everything in black, not because it's difficult, but just that's the color line I'm going to use. So first, there needs to be a run going from the top of this top area back to the old top area. And this is a downhill slope, so I'm just going to draw something kind of like this. That looks pretty nice. I'm gonna round this out a little bit more and have this go up here. Okay. Oops. And this will take you past these radio towers, which I think is okay. I've skied at a few places where there are radio towers at the top. Not a problem. So yep, there's that first run. I'm just going to draw out a few of these while I'm talking, and then I'll go back into fast mode. I'm just talking about a little bit of the rationale. Next thing I want to do is create access to get to this new lift. And I want there to be a couple ways of getting to it. One is you can ski down this green run and then cut over. 2 is you can ski down this red run and cut through here. I wonder if there should be another red there. I'll add that later. And then cut across. So the cat track, or the traversing course, should be about down here, so you can access it from this run. So I'm going to start here with this. And you'll see here we're at 625 meters if you look down at the bottom of the screen. 625 meters. I need this to slope down, and we need to finish at 622. Okay, that's not far enough down. So I need to move this lift down a bit more, maybe to 610. Wonder this is at decisions. You know what? I'm going to move it over to here. 614 meters. I still like this flat area. I think it's good to have the bottom of a ski lift in a flat area if you can do it. So from here, this corner is 627, so yeah, I want to be about 625, and then want to slope downhill. So 625, 623, 620, 617, 614-ish. Now I can right-click on this and show elevation profile. We see the average slope is minus 15%. This isn't degrees, it's percent. So for every 100 meters of horizontal travel, there is 14.7. It drops by 14.7 meters. Right, that's 14.7%. 14.7% is like a middle green. So green runs usually go up to maybe about 25% slope. So I think that's a good slope. I like to check that because if it's too flat, snowboarders are going to hate it, and skiers won't like it much either. All right, so that's good. Another thing I want to do is I want to build another traverse going over this way, because I would like to have at least one regular run going down here and then lots of tree runs. So I'm going to build another one of these up. I'm going to use the same technique. I'm just going to increase it in increments and try to get around a 10% to 15% slope. So I'll do that right now. All right, I think that's far enough over. If you want to ski down this side, you can make your own traverse back. And then I think there should be a run going down from the top here. So it'll be like something like this. Let's see how that looks. One of the things I want to do in creating runs is I want, as much as possible, I want the run to go with the fall line. So you see, if you had a boulder that you could, like a very spherical boulder, and you rolled it, it would roll down this line, right? So that's the natural fall line. You don't want to run, for example, going across. Like the chairlift has what's called a double fall line. So when you're skiing down, you ski down a bit and then across, then down a bit, then across, then down a bit, then across. Ideally, you just ski down to the bottom and then a big cross. So I think this goes pretty well with the fall line. So I can actually get rid of a couple of these. All right, there's that. And then I want to add another one that kind of goes down this gully here. So I'll add that. All right, I like that. It mostly sticks with the fall line, I think. And then I'm going to add another one that cuts across here, because this new run I created, it's definitely steeper at the top. And if you're a beginner, you might not want to ski the top, but you might want to ski the bottom. And this course here starts out not so steep, and then it gets steeper, right? So if you're a beginner, you might want to do ski all the way down the ridge, and then across where it's not too steep, and then continue to the lower part of this. So I'm going to add a bit of a traverse here. All right, that looks nice. And maybe that's all I want to add. No, you know what? I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add one more that goes down here. Okay, I think those all look good. Now let's see how steep they are and start changing the colors. So I already know this one at the top is going to be a beginner run. So I'll make that green. I believe this will be a beginner run. 13%. Yep, definitely a beginner run. Make that green. Okay, and we already know this was 14.7. So I'll make that green. This traverse back, let's see, well, I know it's going to be green. It's not steep at all. I wonder if it's steep enough though. 4.7%. Ooh, that's a little flat. Tell you what, I'm going to fix this. I'll make this a little steeper. Okay, now it's a little over 6%, which is about the minimum slope you want for a beginner run. I think that would be steep enough when it's groomed for snowboarders to keep up speed and not have to take off their boards. I'm a skier, but I don't want snowboarders to struggle unnecessarily. So that's all the green runs. This one is 17.8. But see, I think at the top here, so if we look at these points, it's getting up to 22, 24, 27. Up here it's going to be 26. You know what? That's still going to be a green. Still a beginner run. I thought it might have made it up into the red zone, but it's not. Okay, how about these guys? These should be reds. So average is 20, but up here we're getting steeper. Here it's 42. Like there's a section here where it's probably around 30 on average, and it's a sizable section. So I'm going to call this one a red run, intermediate. And I'm pretty sure this one's going to be red. Average is 25. It's kind of flat at the top, but then it's probably over 30% grade. So this will also be a red. All right, so those are the runs laid out by difficulty for this one lift. Oh, one thing I forgot. Sorry, I need to add one more thing. If at the end of the day you catch the last run and you take this traverse over and the lift is closed, how do you get back to the main area? Well, if it were me, I'd just like tromp through the trees somewhere. But if you're a beginner, you might need a little traverse back. So I'm going to add that. So we'll go from, you know, I'm just going to extend this guy. That's nice. So then at the end of the day, you can ski this red course and then take this green all the way back to the bottom if you want. All right, good. So all of those are in. I'm going to save this again. Just in case Google Earth quits on me. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing for this other lift. And this is going to take me a bit longer. It's a much larger area. I don't think I'm going to have too many runs. I like the idea of having a lot of tree skiing and a lot of off-piste areas, so I'll probably only have maybe 4 or 5 courses built. But this is going to be a bigger endeavor, so I'm going to oh goodness, I just noticed I was building all these under the lifts. There we go. So yeah, I'm going to draw the lifts on the back side, and I'll just time lapse through this because this will be a while. Okay, I have traced out all the runs. I should save this really quickly. All right, so I've traced out all the runs. Now, I added, for example, this run at the very end because I realized just as down here I've drawn the tree runs, I should draw all the tree runs. So this would be a tree run where some trees might be removed, but as long as there's enough space between the trees, it can be a designated run. And then most of the runs on this side are also that style. So what's really cool is you can basically ski from this lift. You can ski this entire back area, this valley, and then a little bit of this valley, and you can still exit. And that way you get all this steep stuff over here, but it's still lift serviced. And I do want to point out, probably for most of these runs, there wouldn't be any grading. It looks like there's already pretty wide open areas. So maybe just a little bit of work to clean up the underbrush. Make sure you're not getting snagged on anything while you're skiing in the powder. This, there would be definitely some more grading. This might actually, you know what? I'm probably just going to make this an actual run. So that's the thing I do next, is I draw the run. So what I do is I do this with a polygon. And I make it, I kind of want to match this color of snow. So it's not pure white. It's just a little bit gray, and I think there's a tiny bit of blue in it. So maybe like, oh, we just lost Google Earth. So sometimes Google Earth doesn't cooperate. Let's reopen. And now, of course, the place is gone. I'm gonna open this. Okay, so we have the Kamui Ski Links KMZ file. Thank goodness I just saved it, right? Let's get back to this. So I was adding the polygon. So under Kamui Ski Links, runs. So I want to make this a little bit blue to match this snow color. And a tiny bit gray. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to set the opacity of the line width at 0. So there's going to be no outline. And I'm going to make the area, I'm going to set it at 90 is probably going to be good. I like to see a little bit of the trees underneath and some of the features. It kind of gives it a more natural snow look, even though we're just seeing the trees underneath it. But let me show you how this looks. So I'm going to draw out the top area. I'm going to draw around this radio tower and create what's basically the top. Okay, that's how that looks. Now that's a little bit too dark. I need to lighten it up. Let's go there. Yeah, that's good. So if you squint, it really blends in. If you squint at that, you can't see that there's a polygon there. If you can still see the polygon, you got to squint more. So I'll start with this polygon. And I'm going to draw out the path for this chairlift. So I'm going to do this front side first. And I'm going to talk through this first little bit, and then I'll go back into time lapse. So I draw this out. It would be to there. Something like that. Now, just to get a sense of the scale here, let's measure how wide this is. 11 meters. It's a little over 30 feet. That's probably just fine for most chairlifts. Okay, and then the base will be down here. Alright, so I've got this drawn. Now it's time to draw a run, and I'm going to draw this first run that I put in. And so I just kind of draw around it. So I draw down this side. I'm just adding points. And draw up the other side. Now, I think some of you might be watching this shaking your heads, because I'm doing this in an extremely inefficient way. There's probably a much better way of doing this, rather than drawing all the points. But maybe not. So I've drawn this, and just make sure it follows kind of neatly. And then where I have runs coming off, I like to have a bit of a gap like this, because later I'll extend this polygon down there. And so this one I can move up there. All right, good. Now if I turn off the all of these lines and you squint at this, right? Can you see how that kind of is like a run there? I think that's pretty cool. Let's check how wide this run is. I think I want this one to be at least 30 meters. That is not nearly wide enough. So I can imagine a lot of traffic coming down this one. So I'm going to widen this quite a bit. That looks respectable. All right, so I'm going to draw the rest of these. I'll put this on time lapse. All right, just to see how this looks, I'm going to turn off the runs and the lifts. And here's what the front side looks like with these new runs added. And again, just give it a squint. And yeah, it's kind of seamless. And so it gives you a good sense of how this would look with these new runs added, right? Pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to turn my runs and lifts back on. And you'll notice I didn't draw a course for this run. This would be a tree run, as I mentioned before. Now I'll turn my attention to the backside. This is going to be a major undertaking. And yeah, I'm going to put this in time-lapse. Enjoy. All right, I think that just about does it. Let's give this a look. So I'll turn off the runs and the lifts. And here's what the ski area looks like. Again, let's do the squint technique to see how everything fits together. Yeah, it looks pretty nice. And then back to the front side. Yeah, this all looks pretty good. Oh, you know what? I forgot one thing. Let me add this really quickly. So if you ride the gondola to the top, how do you get over to this area? Well, one way is you could ski over here and down this course, but that's pretty steep. That's definitely an advanced or expert run, or you could ski down through these, right? And these are all going to be expert. But what if you are more of an intermediate skier? You should be able to cut over to this run. And once you make it past the steep section, it's just an intermediate run the rest of the way down. So I need to add something. I need to add a path that cuts from here to here. And you know what? I'm going to make this a red run, like that. And then I'm going to delete these top ones and redo them as, well, I'll just do this. I'm going to make this one, now I'll add a new one. Okay, I'm going to add a new run up here, and this will be black. I know it's red right now. I'll make it black. Okay, there we go. Now what would be nice is getting down to maybe like here, from up here. So I want to add a cat track that cuts across. And I'll make this a red one. It'll start from, oh, here-ish. Let's see, 736, so yeah, 737, that's okay. And just bring it across. You know what? I'm going to make this whole thing just a red run. It's just going to be a challenging red run at the top. But it doesn't make sense to at least on the map, to have the easy access terminate on a more difficult run. So if you take this track over, you skip this little top section, which is probably a black, but I'm not going to draw that little section black. I'll just call it a difficult red. Okay, so now I have this over here. I need to add a quick cat track. All right, I dig it. So yeah, the idea is you can take the gondola up from the main base area, and then you can ski down the front like normal. Or you could cruise over here and get on this lift, or cruise down this way and get on that lift. And you can ski all these, including the one tree run that goes through here. Or from the gondola, you can get on this cat track and cruise down this red run to the bottom lift here, and then you can have this red run, or this long red run, or this black run, or any of the tree runs, and you'll be riding to the very top. So that's how this place works. And this, like I mentioned at the beginning, this would be a reasonable first expansion. Again, I mentioned that the logging roads, those would probably have to be dealt with. It's not good to have roads crossing the middle of a ski run, especially if it's a groomed run. But otherwise, I mean, this would be some awesome skiing back here. And then I could imagine expanding more into this valley, like up onto these slopes. And there's a road that goes up here, so you could almost build a new base area here with a day lodge, ticket office, lift, chairlift going up, restaurants, etc. You could almost do that down here and expand into this whole valley. So that could be cool. On the front side, I guess you could expand down back to the valley, so have other runs finishing down here. But the aspect is not ideal, so that might not be the best thing to do. But yeah, I could imagine expanding this further up into this valley. Maybe I'll save that for a future video. So yeah, that's it. I hope you found this was interesting and something new. I mentioned earlier, if you thought my technique was really inefficient, if you know of a better way of achieving this type of effect, please let me know. If you have any ideas for resorts that you would like me to expand, feel free to let me know. I'm open to checking out new places. Otherwise, I might just make some videos based on some resorts I've already designed. Maybe I'll redo them. But yeah, let me know what you'd like to see, and if you have any better ways of doing this. So thanks for watching, and catch you next time.